In 2006, after many years of partnership together, ToyBiz and Marvel went their separate ways. Marvel effectively handed over the licensing to their superheroes to Hasbro, who would continue the Marvel Legends line, whilst ToyBiz would rebrand as Marvel Toys and would try to continue without the Marvel characters. This led to them launching a new line called the Legendary Comic Book Heroes line. Essentially, this is Marvel Legends, but for characters who weren't owned by Marvel. On the surface, this is a really fun idea. Essentially, what we're getting is Marvel Legends figures, but for characters who we previously wouldn't have had access to. So we can see there's characters like Judge Dredd and Marv from Sin City, and, some of these Image characters as well, like the Savage Dragon, and they could sit nice and uniformly with our Marvel Legends figures. But sadly, it wasn't meant to be. The Legendary Comic Book Heroes line didn't last very long at all. It went to 2 waves and a couple of twin packs, and that was the end of the line. There were plans to do a 3rd series, and there were some prototypes displayed, but it never got that far. As a consequence, this has become something of an overlooked line. And today I want to take a look at one of my favourites, which was the Conan twin set. Now, as you can see, the packaging is really fun. It's bright, it's colourful, and I love that they've got all these different comic covers on the packaging. I think this is really good. On the back of the packaging here, we can see, obviously, the comic covers. There's a little bio of Conan versus Wrarrl, and then there's also the other figures in the 2 waves that have been so far. Here's a close-up there, so you can see that beautiful artwork and that text that they've got with it, which is fantastic. And of course, at the bottom, here we have the other figures that are available in the series. I love this packaging. I think it's really colourful, I think it's collector-friendly, it's very displayable, and, they've done a really nice job of the presentation. So starting by looking at the Conan, this figure is visually very impressive. It's very comic accurate, so much so that they've obviously taken inspiration from one of the comics on the packaging. And I think this looks absolutely brilliant. I love the sculpt and I love the mould. The paint apps are absolutely wonderful, and the attention to detail is incredibly strong in this figure. Just look at the detailing and the paint apps that are just on his belt alone. You can see each individual skull there, the lovely use of green and the white and the gold. It's just so complementary, and it just looks fantastic. And this cuts across the whole figure. We can see his boots here. They look really lived in, they look really worn, the paint apps are perfect. You get the sense of them being fairy and warm. But we've also got those details of the sandal sort of straps there as well, which look great. Likewise, you can see like the medallions and the bear cloak that he's got. And if we look very carefully, we can actually see that the cloak actually has paws, so we can see that it properly is a bear cloak, which is amazing. And again, his gauntlets, we can see the spiked gauntlets there. They've got lovely paint wash on it. Again, they look metal, they look worn, and they're individual as well, so they haven't just reused the same moulding, which is fantastic. He has a dagger moulded to his thigh here, which is really cool. The only thing that lets it down is that it is moulded piece, so you can't pull it out. It is very much moulded there, unfortunately. And I think that's a real shame, because that would have been a nice little extra if that could have come loose and been an extra weapon. Conan, of course, comes with the Articulation that ToyBiz defined in their Marvel Legends range. His head swivels from side to side. Sadly, there isn't much in the way of moving up or down. It's virtually nothing, which is a shame. I think it's hindered by the very strong plastic hairpiece that he's got, which is a shame, and of course restricted a little bit by the bear cloak as well. And a quick note on the bear cloak, it is actually plugged into his back there. You probably could remove it, but it's going to leave unsightly holes if you did, so it's probably not worth it. He does have the ball jointed shoulders, which look great. They can spin right the way back there, which is fantastic. He's got that bicep swivel as well, which is really, really helpful. And of course, he's got the double jointed elbows. His wrist does rotate. Again, it is hindered a little bit by the gauntlet piece there, but only when it gets to near the nook of the elbow there. And his hand can swivel down. It can't really swivel up. Again, it is blocked by the gauntlet piece that's there. He does, of course, swivel at the waist. And he also has the ab crunch as well, which is really great for getting really good range of motion when it comes to staring down. Fortunately, it doesn't go back very far at all. And if I was going to criticise the figure, I would say that because of the weight of the cloak, he very often looks a bit stooped. He does, of course, have those ball jointed hips as well, so his legs can swing out, they can move good distance forward, although a little bit to the side, and they can swing backwards a little bit as well. He does have the double jointed knees, which is fantastic. He has a swivel at the calf as well, which is great at the boot, and he also has the ankle pivot there, and of course he has the toe articulation as well as the hinge for the foot going backwards and forwards. He also comes with a couple of accessories, so he has his battle axe, which looks fantastic. It has the metal chain on the end, and of course he has his sword as well, which is actually sheathed. This is fantastic because of course you can pull it out, and this can wrap around his chest or his back. And I just wanted again to show the level of detail on their paint apps that are on the sheath alone. I just think this looks really incredible. And likewise the sword, it's lovely, the gold, the silver, the little dents in the sword. I just think it looks absolutely spot on. And here he is holding both together. And I love that the chain is actually a real chain on the end of his battle axe there. It just adds something extra to it, which I think is lovely. So yeah, I think this is a really, really impressive figure, and I think they've just knocked it out the park with Conan. Next up, of course, we have Wrarrl. Again, just what an impressive visual figure this is. Everything from the torn cloak to the horned helmet. It's just incredibly detailed and very raw, and there's just something very potent and powerful about it. It really shouldn't come as a surprise. After all, this is a toy company that did all those fantastic Lord of the Rings figures, but it looks like he's just stepped out of Middle-earth, and this just looks amazing. I love the battle damage to his helmet and to his armour. There's little scrapes there where swords have hit him. I think looks fantastic. I love the tiny little details of the skull and the arrows on his belt there, that painted gold. And of course his wearing that fits perfectly into his pocket there. The scrapes on the armour on his feet and hands are just brilliant. A lovely extra touch here is of course that the helmet can come off, so we get to see the head underneath there. Again, they haven't spared any expense there. They've given it lots of texturing, lots of colouring, lots of paint apps, and it looks really monstrous and just really impressive, and just gives that extra little bit of detail, which I think is lovely. In terms of the articulation, it's actually a bit stronger than Conan, and his head can go all the way back and forward as well, which is brilliant. Of course, no surprises, we get that ball jointed shoulder joint there. Thankfully not hindered at all by his upper sort of tunic, and of course he has the bicep swivel, the double jointed elbows, and the swivel wrists, as well of course as being able to bend them a little bit backwards and a little bit forwards. But yeah, overall, really fantastic. As before, he swivels at the waist, of course, but he also has the same ab crunch, which means he can look a good distance forwards, but actually, surprisingly, a really good distance backwards as well. So he's not hindered by his cape in the way that Conan is hindered by his bear cowl. The cape is really soft and malleable, and his legs, of course, can swing forwards, backwards, out to the side, the same ball joint that we saw in the hips. He has the double jointed knees, and of course the swivel at the calf there at the boot, and of course he has the ankle pivot there, so his foot can go forwards and backwards, a little bit to the side, and the toe articulation. Wrarrl also comes with some accessories, so we can see that he's obviously got his broadsword, and of course he has his worm as well. Once again, the attention to detail here is just absolutely fantastic. Look at those dents and the paint apps. It's just brilliant. And likewise, even the worm has individual black lines separating each of the pieces. It just looks amazing. And so here he is with his accessories in hand there, so we can see obviously his broadsword, and of course he can actually hold the worm or the maggot or whatever it is in his other hand there, and it looks really impressive. And amazingly, of course, the actual worm just fits perfectly into the slot that is in his little case there. Likewise, the broadsword fits perfectly into his hand there, into his grip, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. And for the sake of a size comparison, here is Conan standing next to the Hasbro Marvel Legends Hercules figure. For anyone who's ever wanted to see these two guys go head to head, now is your chance. Again, in terms of the scale, this looks really appropriate, this looks really good, and we can see just how much attention to detail there is on the Conan body. It looks cut above, I think. And here's Conan standing next to the Scarlet Spider, again to give you that sense of scale. Obviously Conan's very butch, very muscular, and yeah, this looks fantastic. And of course here they both are together as they prepare to be locked in combat. Yeah, I think this set is absolutely marvellous, really. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's a shame that this line didn't continue, because what we're seeing here is the potential for where they could have gone with this range. Obviously there's a lot more characters they could have produced, and there's a lot more figures that we could have had in our collections. With this level of detail, with this kind of articulation, it would have been really impressive. For me personally, I think these are some of the best in the two waves that they did, my personal favourites. But do let me know in the comments if you disagree, or if you think you had another personal favourite from these waves that you'd like to talk about. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as I'll be posting a lot more videos soon.